The answer involves the word thought elevator, and that's all I'm going to say.
I've never wanted to have sex with a pot pie, but like, I'd have sex with that pot pie.
We're all weak to stepping on nails.
Let me preface this by saying I wrote a script.
Daytona Beach is like 2 mild inconveniences from being a post-apocalyptic wasteland anyway.
So many of my tabs say semen.
Are you guys ready for this weird, horny adventure that we're all about to go on?
You can't handcuff me for skanking.
This motherfucker gaslights you.
Diet Coke and Sorrow will be chapter 4.
And against all odds, Kyle, we became those swirly weirdos.
This whole podcast is a very negative mouthfeel.
Welcome to Debate This, the show where no one is right, but someone is definitely wrong. In this show, we take time out of our busy adult lives to talk about comic books, video games, and how the pun that I made in our Google Docs that says all Geass, no breaks is the best pun I've ever made. And also, I forgot to put something here yet again. Ding and ding.
Ding.
Hey, guys.
Hey,
What do you guys
Andrew.
think? How do you guys feel about imperialism?
Oh,
Generally
Pro or
negative.
con? Are we like
that's
Generally
gonna be a no for me,
con.
dog.
Yeah, two thumbs down on imperialism,
two
Andrew.
thumbs down? So would you say we're not a colonialism podcast? Is that?
We are not a colonialism podcast.
There are many things you could label our podcast as, and
Colonialism is not one of them.
colonialism is not one of them.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, I have bad news. So today's episode, much like all
I
things,
don't ever like when someone brings up colonialism and bad news.
That's not a good transition.
much like all things in modern American society, today's episode is deeply rooted in white European imperialism.
Ugh,
Okay.
gross.
Yep. So today we're going to be talking about Code Geass, a show that bravely asks the question, what if America and Canada teamed up to conquer Japan with giant robots?
Ooh.
Why would you ask something so controversial yet so brave?
and then confidently asks the second, more important question, how much friendship will it take a group of spunky teens to tear it all down?
Okay, see, I
How
like
much-
that better.
How much
Yeah.
friendship it takes to tear down colonialism?
Or
Yeah.
giant robots.
Or giant robots? Or America and
Both?
Canada? Okay.
Yeah.
All
How,
of the above.
how much friendship?
At least 2 Gundams worth based on the theme song you made us all just watch.
Thank you. So before we dive into the geopolitical nightmare that is a white nationalist fascist state conquering with the world's biggest military, please allow me to introduce my 3 co-pilots, Matt Gawain Cole, Todd Gareth Thomas, and Kyle Lancelot Harper. Now, you guys know what those...
We're
we
Knights of the Round Table.
We're Knights of the
we-
Round Table.
We're straight up Knights of the Round
We
Table
dance
today.
whenever we're able.
Are
Yep.
we gonna form a kicking circle around our son's bully?
in addition to being my dad's drinking buddies, you guys today are Knights of the Round Table. So I should say real quick, today's episode was sponsored by Sean, one of the proud foot soldiers of the army of Butt Thwomp Nation. Together, we fight for justice, liberty, and the freedom to share weirdly sexual images of baked beans for all. And
What a strange way to distill our Patreon.
And if
Yeah,
you all
I'm
would
out.
like to join, if you all listening would like to join the fight, maybe even commission your own flavor text, you may do so at patreon.com/debatethiscast. Okay, so we always start with flavor text with the all important question: what do you know? Now I know the answer to this, but why don't we go around the horn and you guys tell me how much you know about Code Geass?
Well, Code Geass was the one on Cartoon Network where the kids went into like the digital world and the one girl had like bunny ears, right?
Nope.
Is that codename Kid Next Door? Is that what that is?
That was. I think you're thinking of Code Lyoko.
Oh,
Code Lyoko.
those are different things.
Yeah.
I like Matt, was fairly certain I had heard of this before, but now I'm pretty sure I was also thinking of Code Lyoko. And also probably codename Kids Next Door.
Awesome.
I won't even pretend I know nothing about this, which is fun because when Sean, your request came in, you had said like, hey, maybe Andrew or Todd would be great at this. Sean, I gave it to Andrew. I gave it straight over to Andrew.
Without
I said,
a
"This one's for
second
you."
thought.
Well, like the rest of us, I watched the intro before we recorded.
Yeah.
The intro music slaps. That's
Intro
what I know
music
about
is real
Code
good.
Geass.
I think Code Geass has one of my favorite anime openings ever.
I think that this is the flavor text that I can confidently say I know the least about going in.
Yes, same.
Yeah. And also same. I had never seen it either. I take that back. Before we got the request, I had watched the first episode because I knew that I liked the opening. So I did not know that much going in. I think it's going to be really fun. There's a lot of really interesting concepts here. I think this story was really novel for its time, and I think it's been told better and in different ways. But I think there's a lot of good stuff here. There is a lot of not great stuff. There's a lot of fat on this meat, if you will.
Okay.
But
Sure.
you know, again, for an anime series in the mid 2000s, I accept that. So I want to quickly, before we get into this, the beats by beats, I want to talk a little bit about just the background on the creation of Code Geass and some of the production that's behind it. So Code Geass, aka Code Geass Lelouch of the Rebellion, that's the official title.
Is that originally, how you pronounce that word?
Lelouch.
Lelouch.
There's a lot of French and Western European influence here. Code Geass Lelouch of the Rebellion originally aired as a 25-episode anime series between October of 2006 and July of 2007 in Japan. This is actually the first anime series that we've talked about on this show that is not being adapted from a manga series, which is pretty uncommon. This is actually completely original story.
Andrew, can you explain what that means for people that may not understand what that means?
Oh, sure. Yeah, thank you. Manga is Japanese comics versus anime. There's kind of like anime as like the whole Japanese animation in general, and then there's anime that's referring to a TV series, an animated TV series. So there's like capital A and small a anime.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So when I say anime, as far as like today is concerned, I'm talking about a TV series. Whereas a manga is a comic.
We all knew for sure, but I wanted to just say maybe someone else didn't know.
Anime TV series are often adapted from manga. Usually, so the things we've talked about in the past: Evangelion, One Piece. Even if you, what else did we talk about? Some of the the Studio Ghibli stuff. Those all started as manga and were adapted into TV series.
Evangelion did. I forgot / missed that when we covered it. Okay.
Yep, it did. So now, of course, there are several manga adaptations that came after, but the show is the source. So a sequel series aired in April of 2008 titled Code Geass Lelouch of the Rebellion R2. And it just picks up after the cliffhanger ending. Some call it just season 2. It is effectively like the next series, the sequel, if you will. Which we're going to talk about R2 a little bit, but I don't know that we're going to have enough time to get through most of it. The show itself was a collaboration between two animation powerhouses. The show was produced by a company called Sunrise, which we talked about when we talked about a couple of our other shows. We talked about Toei, Toei, which they've done like all the big names, right? Like a lot of the stuff like the Narutos of the world. Sunrise has a number of shows under its belt, most notably Gundam. So Matt, you mentioned before, this looked like Gundam Wing. There's a reason for that. But also other shows you may have heard of: Cowboy Bebop, Escaflowne, Inuyasha, Witch Hunter Robin, and Gintama. A lot of shows that were on Adult Swim in the early parts of that run.
These are all the Toonami greatest hits.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's where we're nestled sweetly in that like mid to late 2000s Toonami and early Adult Swim block, like the 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock block.
Yep.
The stuff that I set my VCR to tape, and I had a stack of VHS tapes of just Adult Swim reruns. So if Toei is like the Disney of anime or animations, Sunrise is like the Universal or the Paramount. So a pretty big deal. But I think it's interesting. So this is a situation you'll see in the opening credits that the character design was actually farmed out to Clamp. Do any of you guys know what Clamp is? Is that a name that rings a bell?
I know Clamps was the robot from Futurama.
I was gonna say
I
the
think all
mafia
three of
robot
us were
from
about to make a
Futurama,
clamps
yeah.
joke.
But that's
That
it.
is, wow, I hate us. Yeah, so close.
Good job, everyone.
Where Clamps is a robot from Futurama, Clamp is an incredibly successful team of all female manga artists.
Oh, okay.
Oh, all right.
Like a kind of like a collective.
Neat.
Really cool. Yeah, it is really cool. So this was kind of made this, that gave the show this really unique mix of over the top robot action painted over with this dreamy shouju aesthetic. Shouju or shouju. Shouju manga is a term. It refers to mostly to Japanese comics, but then again, can it be adapted into anime series? These are shows and comics directed to young women versus shonen, which are directed to young men. So Naruto is a shonen. Dragon Ball Z is a shonen. Shouju would be more like a Twilight, basically.
Sailor Moon?
Yeah, that's a
Okay.
great example.
Okay. Great.
Both series, both R1 and R2, which R1 or the first series of Code Geass was later titled R1 after R2 came out. Both seasons, series, whatever you want to call them, were incredibly successful. Both having won awards that include Best Anime TV Series at the Tokyo International Anime Fair, Animation Kobe, which is a big anime event. The voice acting and sound design have also received a number of awards. Like we said, the opening slaps, but also the voice acting, even the dub, the English dub is really good. The main character Lelouch is actually voiced by the Black Ranger from the Power Rangers Ninja Run.
Oh,
Oh, nice.
cool.
Yeah, so Matt, you might recognize his voice if you ever
Worlds
decide
collide.
to watch. Yeah, exactly. And the success, as we said, it spawned a number of things. It spawned some OVAs, which is a term, original video animations. So they're just like kind of one-offs that aren't really movies, but they're just like one-off things that come out. Several different manga runs, and then a movie trilogy. So similar to Evangelion, they actually redid the entire both series as a three entry movie, and kind of recontextualized and kind of retold the story a little bit. That compilation trilogy recently got a sequel called Lelouch of the Resurrection. And I should note that there is a semicolon between the E and the S of Resurrection. I do not know why.
Lame.
Which was released in 2019. So there's still a huge following for the show, even like a decade and a half after it was over. And then, of course, R1 and R2 were both dubbed in English by Funimation, because of course they were, and brought to the States. R1 aired on Adult Swim in April of 2008, so right after R2 basically kicked off in Japan. And then R2 in the States ran immediately following, so it ran as one full 50-episode block.
Oh, okay.
However, so you may have caught this at some point on Adult Swim. You may not remember it. However, they didn't have it very long. They only lost the rights to the show about a year after. And it vanished after 2010, much like a lot of the series at that time. And then I will once more, if you haven't already paused your podcast app to go listen to the opening, you should immediately go listen to before. We'll probably have Kyle or one of the future editors splice in the intro song here.
So that if
the
you're
intro-
driving, you don't like crash your
Yeah.
car trying to listen to this
Yeah.
super anime opening.
Exactly.
We'll help you out.
The song is titled Colors, and it's by the band Flow, who has actually done a number of other popular anime themes, including 3 different openings for Naruto.
Okay.
So I mentioned Clamp. I wanted to talk a little bit about Clamp because I think their history and their space in this industry is so unique and cool. So Clamp began as an 11-member doujinshi publisher. Doujinshi is a Japanese word for basically self-published works. So they were making zines.
Oh, okay.
All right.
It was 1989. They were making zines, and I
Got
think
it.
that is the coolest
Sure.
fucking thing in the world. Just an all-woman group making Japanese zines. That fucking rules.
That is very cool.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So Clamp hit mainstream in the late 80s with a title called RG Veda, and then by 1993 had kind of turned into an actual company and boiled down to 4 active members, all of whom are still active and a part of Clamp today. They are leader Nanase Okawa, and then there's Mokana Apapa, Mick Nekoi, and Satsuki Igarashi. And I'm so sorry if I butchered those names. This group has produced a ton of super popular, successful manga. That's why I want to talk about them. They're known, they have a very unique, a very specific aesthetic. It's very, all their stuff is very romantic and feminine. So think like, I don't want to say like think like the cover of a Harlequin romance novel, you know, like that kind of vibe where like some big muscly man out in the forest and like, or a Victorian era woman, you know what I mean? It's that kind of aesthetic, right? In their version of that is, you know, their characters, you can always tell one of their designs because their characters are often very androgynous looking. And they're very angular. Their everyone has very like sharp chins and very long, lanky bodies. That's just men often also have long flowing hair. Women, they got boobs and butts. There's a lot of boobs and butts. Fan service is at an 11 with Clamp, and that's another thing with them. And why a lot of their stuff was really popular early on, and they don't have a lot of stuff now because they don't, you know, that whole aesthetic is going away. You know,
passed.
Just like we've talked about it with Marvel already. It's not exclusive to American comics. So their work so let's go back to some of the work that they did in the 80s. They created Captain Tsubasa, which is this like kind of cute, lovable kid series about soccer and friendship, which is considered to be the first legitimate sports anime, which is pretty cool.
Wild.
All right.
So again, another staple of flavor text is we've got an image gallery. So if listeners at home, make sure to, if you're by a computer or by a phone, click the link in the show notes and you can follow along to the Imager library. The first 3 images that I've got posted in the gallery are all different examples of some of Clamp's work. So this is not just again just to kind of color their aesthetic. Image 1, we've got Cardcaptor Sakura, which is an example of a shoujo manga. This is a great example of one. This is the child fights monsters with the power of cards trope, and it actually came 3 years before Yu-Gi-Oh, which is interesting.
All right,
wow.
Okay.
Cardcaptor Sakura was incredibly popular and successful, and had a huge run on Toonami. So you may have seen Cardcaptor Sakura play around the Sailor Moon block. That was when that was usually on. And then a couple other examples here we've that you may have seen or heard of. Miyuki-chan in Wonderland, The One I Love, Magic Knight, Ray Earth, and Clamp School Detectives. The latter of the two are shown in images 2 and 3 respectively.
Magic Knight, Ray Earth, and Clamp School Detectives. Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Magic
exactly
Knight,
what you. No, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say, Magic Knight Ray Earth looks exactly like Sailor Moon, like the whole way like Sailor Moon.
It looks and sounds like a Yu-Gi-Oh card. Also,
yes, it super does.
Well, I was gonna say Magic Knight, Ray Earth, and Clamp School Detectives look exactly like you think they would.
Yeah, it's a very, like, when you talk about like the prototypical anime design, this is it as in the box as it can be. The Rob Liefeld of anime, if you will.
that is a very astute way to put it. Yeah.
So later in the 2000s, Clamp tried their hand at some shonen manga. Chobits came out in 2002, which is something that I read. Is about a man a teen falls in love with a virtual girl, because of course he does, because it was 2002. And then there's Tsubasa, Reservoir Chronicle, and Angelic Layer. Angelic Layer was a pretty big deal for a while. And then in 2006, we're approached by Code Geass producer Yoshitaka Kawaguchi to do the character designs, which of course was a first. So since Code Geass, in the last 10 or so years, they've actually done character designs for a few other series, have since produced a sequel series to Cardcaptor Sakura called Cardcaptor Sakura Clear Card. And earlier in this month, in June 2021, as we're recording, announced that they're going to be collaborating with Netflix on an original animated adaptation of Grimm's fairy tales. It's
Huh.
pretty neat.
Oh, interesting.
Interesting.
If you
Yeah.
told me Card Captor Sakura Clear Card was a brand of card sleeves, I'd believe you.
Yeah.
and assumed I would have bought them at one point in life.
Yeah, fair. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's talk about Code Geass. So, Code Geass, before we get into the episode's bits, there's a little bit of backstory to fill in. Code Geass takes place in an alternate reality where the world is controlled by 3 mass superpowers. You've got the Holy Britannian Empire that controls all of North, Central, and South America, including Iceland and Greenland.
So it's the
You've got-
whites. That's the whites, right?
I'm pointing at Matt over our Zoom call.
Yeah.
It's like, we'll just say it now.
Britannia. I mean, it's,
Yeah.
Europa United, which is the only of the 3 superpowers that is a democratic republic. They control all of Europe, Africa, and the Middle East, west of and including Iran. And then, of course, you've got the Chinese Federation that controls everything in Asia east of Iran and south of Russia, but specifically not Japan, because we're going to
Okay.
get there.
Yeah.
And if you look on image 4, that is a capture from the show itself, talking about the breakup of the different superpowers.
Man, this is gonna age real poorly in a decade when this is how geopolitics divides the world anyway.
I mean, is it bad that my first thought when you were listing what the Holy Britannian Empire is, made me think like, well, their healthcare is probably good. Looking at the countries that are listed, it's better than what we have.
So the Britannian Empire, or just strictly Britannia, you probably guessed, serves as the primary force and antagonist to the story. So please bow to your evil empire.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
But your evil empire that's actually not as much evil as they are following orders from a mysterious and corrupted force they don't quite understand. Huh?
Aren't we all?
Like every evil imperial empire story, there's a bigger, eviler imperial empire controlling the strings.
And they all meet in the basement of a pizza shop.
So let's go. Just a couple key points about the world. So like I said, this is an alternate reality. So think like Watchmen, right? Like what would happen if we won Vietnam? You know, it's like that kind of thing. So Britannia, despite the fact that they operate in North and South America, is intended to be the imperial monarchy that evolved out of the British Empire, hence Britannia.
Yeah, that tracks.
Yeah.
But in this alternate timeline, the United States was never created. The British colonists lost the American Revolution and instead became the dominant force, the dominant like monarchy in the West. Meanwhile, England was actually conquered by Napoleon. So all of the like British Empire kind of fled.
Kind of moved west.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And then Napoleon actually conquered all of Europe and Russia. So this show kind of like the hand wave is those two events never happened or transpired differently.
So then Europa United is all French.
Exactly.
Gotcha. And then the Chinese Federation is obviously
Chinese.
Okay.
Yeah. It's enough to suspend disbelief, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So in the years prior to when Code Geass takes place, Britannia has been steadily conquering other independent countries, including the Philippines, New Zealand, and most importantly, Japan. So Japan was independent until the conquer. Yes.
Such a unnecessary, like geographical strategic decision.
Yeah.
There's actually a reason for it, and again, like any good sci-fi story, because Japan was the source of a rare metal.
I swear to shit, I was just about to say there is some form of unobtainium on one of those islands.
That's
awesome.
This month's unobtainium is brought to you by Sakuradite.
Shut up. That's not real. You made that up.
I didn't make it up. It's Code Geass did. Sakuradite is a key component in Britannia's military tech and is the secret sauce behind their conquering powers. Their signature weapon and basically like the reason why they were able to conquer so easily are these nightmare frames, which are giant mechs piloted by members of the Imperial Army.
Nightmare spelled with a K.
With a K.
Mm-hmm. There are not many things that you can call Imperial mechs to make them sound cooler than Imperial mechs, but Nightmare Frames is up there.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
And so the Knights motif, right, comes into play again. This is the Britannian Empire. This is the British Empire. But the Knights the Knights comes back. So all of the Nightmare Frames, all of the like the prototypes have names from like the Knights of like King Arthur's court, basically. So we're gonna hear Lancelot and Gawain and you know all those
Andrew,
all those names. Yes,
is there mech jousting in this show?
There isn't jousting per se, but there are mechs that use giant lances, and yes, it's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
all right,
okay, I'm still in.
Yeah. Okay, let's get into it. The year is 2010 ATB.
All right,
also, I should say it's nothing. It's just like, again, what if the Roman Empire didn't do the thing, and instead of a Roman calendar, they use a Britannian calendar. So it's 2010 after the establishment of the Britannian Empire.
Gotcha.
So it's supposed to be in line with our timeline.
Wild.
Yeah.
Wild.
So the first episode opens, we see two young boys walking together in the woods of Japan. The narrator is talking about Japan being attacked and overwhelmed by the force of the Britannian army. One of the boys with black hair and purple eyes tells the other he swears to destroy Britannia someday.
Okay.
Flash forward 7 years later, we see that the masses of ex-Japanese citizens, now called 11s, have been rounded up and sent to live in ruined ghettos while the high society of Britannian colonists live it up in the newly developed Tokyo settlement. So what's happened is Britannia has conquered Japan for their vibranium.
Got it.
What Britannia does is when they conquer a country, they annex it as an area. So Japan has been annexed and renamed as Area 11. Because they are white nationalists, they do not refer to people as their home country. Rather, they are just like, in this case, 11s. And there be racism. Oh, baby, there be racism.
So possibility that the Hunger Games takes place in the same universe, in the same universe is what you're talking about.
It's the same idea.
Yeah.
But like reverse.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. The Western version of that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But not far off, honestly. We meet our main character, Lelouch Lamperouge, a super intelligent.
Hold on, nope.
That's a fun name.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's almost that superhero trope of like first name,
Same
last
letter.
name alliteration, but you can't have an alliteration and kind of rhyme it. It really does away with everything.
If I may defend it for a second, there is a reason for this, and we're going to get into it.
I mean, whatever. It's not going to make the name not funny.
Yeah, it's not a great name. You mentioned there's a lot of everyone has French sounding names here. So Lelouch is a super intelligent, if not also incredibly pompous teen. He challenges some hoity-toity noble to an underground game of chess because that's what happens in this world. So we see a couple things. When we see his cocky attitude and the way that he just like mops the floor at this dude, it shows us in a very not so subtle manner that he is a strategic genius. Lelouch is also, we note, is a student at a prestigious Britannian academy. So he is Britannian, and he is, you know, talking with other people that are Britannian. Lelouch is shown in image 5. So you may note he's got black hair and purple eyes. So this is the little boy that we saw who said he's going to destroy Britannia.
Gotcha.
Real
Playing
quick,
the long game.
Andrew, in the Murder High School, what is he the best of?
Strategy, Todd.
He would be The closest analog would be in Murder High School. Who is the guy at the glasses, the real shit heel that was like,
oh god,
Byakuya.
Yeah.
Byakuya. Yeah, if we're doing a Danganronpa, he is Byakuya.
I didn't expect to spin the Rolodex of my brain back to Danganronpa today.
Well, it's coming on Switch, baby. You better get ready.
I'm not getting ready.
So we hear over the public intercom, we hear the Viceroy of Area 11, Prince Clovis. Prince Clovis is the he's the Viceroy, is like the ruler of this annexed country. So he's not the ruler of the empire, he's just the ruler of Area 11. Calling for, as people that conquer and annex places do, he is calling for unity and peace following a terrorist attack in Osaka. Prince Clovis is shown in image 6.
He looks like royal Joey Wheeler.
Yeah, well, his voice is like, "Hello, yes, I'm Prince Clovis."
Of course it is.
Hello, my wonderful subjects, like that kind of very foppish. So Lelouch hears this strange voice, like a woman's voice, and it's coming from this truck that's crashed on the highway. He goes to investigate, and as he's inside, the truck starts driving away while he's trapped in the back. Oh no! The drivers, we find out, are part of the Japanese resistance. One of those resistance fighters unleashes this stolen mech, this nightmare frame, and starts fighting back with the mech against the Britannians who are chasing them. This particular resistance fighter, her name is Colin Kozuki, and she's on image 7.
Colin with a K.
Colin, Kallen, Colin. She's got boobs and butt.
This vest situation is weird.
It seems impractical.
Yeah.
It's really good at kind of driving all the focus to one place.
It's a double-layered boob window.
I really wish I could understand what the artist was going for here.
She's a very subtle thing.
She's really cute too, in the face, and then the lower down you get, the weirder it gets.
She's a good character. I like Colin a lot. You're supposed to like her. She's kind of a protagonist, if there is a protagonist in this story.
If you were to explain the dimensions of this character, you would say that the width of her eyes is the same as the width of her waist across.
That is fair and true. Yeah, like I said, I mean, again, if you're not looking at the images, this is the most anime-ass anime aesthetic. Like when people think stereotypical anime, it's this aesthetic.
Mm-hmm. Sure is.
So Lelouch is back in the back of this truck. This truck is headed toward the Shinjuku ghetto, or excuse me, Shinjuku. I mentioned earlier, so again, to really quick reinforce, this world, Japan was taken over, Tokyo was decimated. In its place was put a smaller settlement that was built literally on top of the ruins of the destroyed city. But there are still pockets that were not developed that are just like destroyed buildings. Those ghettos, that's where all of the former Japanese live.
Got it.
So this is the first time that we see that. And this happens to be the Shinjuku part of town, which Shinjuku is a huge part of Tokyo. A lot of people have heard the Shinjuku Station, which is a massive entertainment shopping area. It's also featured in Persona 5, wink, wink. Just a massively trafficked part of the city. And it's destroyed. We see a team of honorary Britannians are dispatched to deal with the terrorists in Shinjuku. One of them finds Lelouch in the truck, and the two are kind of like he has his gun point at him, and they recognize each other. This is Suzaku Kurugi, image 8. This is Lelouch's childhood friend and the other young boy from the beginning of the episode. Suzaku's our good boy. He's our hero. He's
a self-insert.
Yeah,
kind of character.
Suzaku is lawful good. Like he is the paladin of the show. He is going to do whatever it takes to do right. He is our white knight. And again, like the show opens with a chess game. Like it is not subtle in its imagery. Lelouch is always wearing black. He eventually starts to lead a team called the Black Knights. Meanwhile, Suzaku is always wearing white and literally like pilots the only white colored robot named Lancelot. Like, again, this is not subtle in what they're trying to portray here.
Yeah.
So Suzaku has been dispatched to find out what the military thinks is poison gas. The container of what is not poison gas on the truck opens and reveals that it's not a poison gas. Rather, it's a mysterious girl with long green hair who's all wrapped up in a straitjacket.
Oh.
The same girl who Todd mentioned was floating in space in bell bottoms.
They did a Firefly.
Video. They did a Firefly. So Image 9 is your what's her name from Firefly?
Mysterious girl is in Firefly. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I forget her name. So a group of Britannian soldiers find Lelouch and Suzaku, and who are doing the Spider-Man "you know you" thing, along with this green-haired girl. The commanding officer instructs Suzaku to shoot Lelouch, thinking that Lelouch is just a terrorist. Suzaku refuses to because he's a good boy, and the CO just shoots Suzaku instead. Lelouch is like, "Oh fuck," and is just like, "I don't know what to do now." He's like, "Am I gonna die here having done nothing?" And the green-haired girl automatically like gets up, screams, and jumps in front of him and says, "You can't die." Okay. What happens is, though, there's this kind of weird symbol that looks like, like how when you draw birds like as V's, but with like curves?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what the symbol kind of looks like, and it just appears on her forehead. And then she just like dies. She's just lying there bleeding on the ground. Except she isn't dead, and while we think she's dead, her almost dead body reaches over to Lelouch, and then like you see him a flash, and then there's some visual treatment, and the camera zooms into Lelouch's eyes, and there's all these like wires and blue mist, and the music goes. In that internal monologue, this mysterious girl offers Lelouch a great power. The power of a king, which will condemn him to a life of solitude, unquote. Of course, because he's a pompous piece of shit 17-year-old boy, he accepts. And in the next scene, we see that same symbol, the bird symbol, appear in Lelouch's left eye. And that is image 10.
He did a Sasuke.
Yeah. That's... No.
I was really just thinking because of the eye thing.
Yeah, sure. Like the eye thing. This is Geass. So this is our
Sparta.
No, this is Patrick.
This is Patrick. Look, guys. There's always a power. There's always a devil fruit. There's always a lighthouse, right? Like,
yeah, there's always our anime bullshit, and this is our anime
bullshit. Lelouch has this kind of weird internal monologue, and we see it go through his brainstem, and we see the camera kind of fade out or flash out, and we're back in the real world. And Lelouch gets up and he stands up and he goes, "I am Lelouch v. Britannia, and I command you to die." So two things there. One, we've heard Lelouch introduce himself as Lelouch v. Britannia, not Lelouch Lamperouge. Second, he just commands the soldiers to die, and that symbol in his eye sparkles. And we see that same treatment that go through the soldier, and they're like, "Rah!" And then their eyes turn all red, and they all say, "Yes, sir. Happily, Your Highness," and they shoot themselves in the head.
Oh,
all right.
So this is Geass.
It seems OP.
Yeah,
it's super OP. This is the power of Geass. So Lelouch can command people to do whatever he tells them to. He can cast command.
Oh,
he's Kilgrave from Jessica
he's
Jones.
That's where I went to.
He's Kilgrave. He is exactly Kilgrave. Now there are rules that they established to this universe that he can only do a Kilgrave once per person. He can only cast command once per day. No, he can only do a Kilgrave one time per person. But again, like if you're just telling people to kill themselves once is all you need.
And that's like forever though, right? Like that doesn't.
Yes, Matt. When you die, it's forever.
Alright, fine.
No, yeah. So if
Yeah,
he just
it's
tells you
forever.
to like make a sandwich, then he's used his
You
used
can't-
his command on you for forever.
He doesn't. No, he does not get another
after
one
a short rest or anything.
after a long rest.
What if he
exactly.
says like, make me a sandwich and await further instructions? Like, can you prolong that sort of thing?
That's like wishing for more
yeah,
wishes.
can you
Matt.
wish for
You
more
can't
wishes?
wish for more wishes.
All right.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fair.
Have to establish the rules of this world.
Yeah. The commands are time sensitive. Like once you do the thing, it's done. So it's like a Mr. Meeseeks. Oh God. Anyway, okay. So image 11 is a really fun picture. This is the true Lelouch. This is Lelouch v Britannia. He's a sociopath.
Yeah.
You're kidding.
So this is him with blood on his face, realizing that he has found purpose in his life. So we get a monologue to the audience, basically him saying that like his entire life to this point has been a lie. He tells us that the whole world is filthy and someone needs to bring this world to justice. So like, like a serial killer.
So
Good.
some real edgelord stuff going on too.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm, mhm, mhm.
How old is this kid supposed to be?
Like every good JRPG protagonist, he is no older than 17.
Yeah. A nondescript anime age.
Yeah,
Perfect.
of the perfect adult years, capable of world-changing decisions. Okay, so that's the end of episode 1. I am not going to go into that much detail for the rest of the episodes. I promise. It's just
But that
setting
was
up the
the groundwork.
characters.
Episode 1?
That was episode 1. It's
was
just
episode
setting up the
1.
characters.
Wow.
So Lelouch later then uses his Geass to steal a nightmare from a Britannian officer and hijacks a radio signal that's leading to the members of the resistance. Remember Colin, the reverse boob window? So she is driving another stolen nightmare frame. So hey, remember how Lelouch was playing chess? Because I'm going to remind you that 7 other times today. So Lelouch's thing is he's like a war strategist. So like if you've ever played Fire Emblem, this is a thing where it's like, oh my God, you're gonna tell us like where to go, and that's what he's doing. So he is the guy on the other side of the radio that tells people to go places and do the thing.
Do the thing.
He's a consultant.
He's a consultant, a wartime consigliere, if you will. Anyway, so he's providing this direction. So what he does is he hijacks a nightmare and he's like looking at the readout on the enemy side, so he can see where everybody is. So he's basically just telling them where to go. But they don't know who he is. He's just this mysterious voice that just starts commanding them to do things, and they're just like, no, whatever. And
Wait,
with
one sec. I'm sorry to cut you off. I just realized that I don't know exactly which side Lelouch is on, and maybe that's the point. But is he on the side of the resistance right now?
Good question. I should have clarified that. So remember he said I'm going to destroy Britannia. He
Yes.
is fighting on the side of the resistance. He is going to bring Britannia down, and we are going to learn why soon.
Got it. Okay, cool.
But thank you for clarifying.
Yeah.
So he's helping the resistance fight back against Britannia, and they succeed. So they successfully, like the 3 of them basically, are able to fight off this entire army in this ghetto. Meanwhile, we see Suzaku awakens in this hospital room, and he's accompanied by a very sinister sounding man. His name is Lloyd. He's image 12, and he talks like this. He's like, "Hello,
Good.
Suzaku." He's not a bad guy. I don't know why they gave him that voice. They just wanted to like do like a weird like a mad scientist thing.
His
But he's
last
like-
name is Asplund.
It's Asplund. Yeah, he's like the creator of all the nightmare frames. He makes a lot of the prototypes. So he's like, let's try out the latest prototype. Like is that kind of thing. And then he's got his cute mousy assistant Cecile Krumi, who's like a motherly figure to Suzaku. So she's image 13. So our good boy Suzaku volunteers to pilot the experimental nightmare frame Lancelot, which is the latest in nightmare technology, shown on image 14.
Because of course he is, and of course it is.
Of course it is. Yes, that's image 14. And it rips. Like Lancelot fucking rules, and it is like way more OP than anything else out there. So Suzaku comes out, is piloting the Lancelot. He's now pushing back against the rebellions. Remember, Suzaku, while he is Japanese, is on the Britannian side. So you've got Lelouch, who's Britannian, fighting with the Japanese. You've got Suzaku, Japanese, fighting with the Britannians.
And Suzaku was the other kid with Lelouch in the beginning.
Yep. Suzaku's he is us. He's the character whole.
Well,
he's
a good guy. He's not the self-censor. He's just the good boy.
Okay,
he's a good boy.
So wait, when these two were like kids walking on the beach or whatever, was it like
playing chess?
Yeah, was it like a combined thing of like, I'm gonna destroy Britannia, and the other kid was like, no. So it was like, I'm gonna destroy Britannia, and the other kid was like, haha, you shouldn't do that, or something like that.
We'll find out.
Okay,
we didn't see the rest of that scene.
Got it.
Yeah,
that cutscene doesn't come back yet. Got to get to
actually
for that.
What happened was it wasn't actually Suzaku; it was a copy of Xehanort.
Stop it!
Don't you north this up?
I can never tell if you're being real or not when you bring that shit up. So don't.
Good stuff. So Suzaku is fighting back against the rebels, and Lelouch in his Stolen Nightmare is like, fuck, and they fight. So the two of them are fighting in their mechs, not knowing the other is the other person. Now this is why we know that Suzaku is the hero of the story is while he's fighting Lelouch, a woman falls from a building, a Japanese woman falls from a building, and he stops to save her. Which Lelouch is like, why would you do that? That's stupid. Because Suzaku is our good boy. Now, in the midst of all this chaos, Lelouch uses his Geass mind control powers to break into the palace. I'm sorry, let me back up. So Lelouch gets away. Lelouch kind of breaks away. He takes this opportunity in the midst of all this chaos to break into the palace using his Geass powers. Because again, he can just do that. He can just like walk up and be like, you're going to let me pass. And they say, I'm going to let you pass.
Yeah.
So he just walks into the Imperial Palace by himself. We see that the Britannian army has caught up with the resistance and this like group of like a shelter of 11s, ex-Japanese citizens, and is about to just like fire on all of them. When we hear an announcement of the broadcast saying, "This is Prince Clovis. Please, everybody, just leave Shinjuku right now. Just do it." And everyone's like, "What the fuck?" Well, what that was is Lelouch using his to tell Clovis to F off.
Okay.
Well, actually, I'm sorry. He didn't do that. He has a gun pointed at Clovis's head.
He used the power of gun.
He used the power of gun. Because here's the big reveal. Lelouch takes off his helmet and says, "It's been a long time, brother."
Ooh.
Lelouch and Clovis are brothers. Lelouch, or i.e. Lelouch v. Britannia, is 17th in line to the imperial throne. Clovis's reaction is actually happy. He's like, gotcha. "Oh, I thought you were dead. Like, it's great. Like, you can be by my side and blah, blah, blah," as we like, whatever. And instead, Lelouch doesn't do that and keeps a gun aimed at his head. And this is where he uses his Geass to interrogate Clovis. The thing that he asks Clovis, because again, you only get one. You only get one Kilgrave. He asks Clovis about his mother's murder.
Okay.
I'm guessing it's not a good answer.
Well, we're going to find out after this quick break.
Hey, are you ready for Mephisto to be in this show? Because he's gonna be in this show.
From the nerds that debate this comes The Plus is Loose, a podcast where we break down every episode of the latest MCU shows being aired on Disney+.
Dottie was gonna be the embodiment of Mephisto.
I feel very strongly that whether it was Mephisto...
I do not think this is Mephisto.
This is Mephisto.
I'm Mephisto, you Mephisto. I'm gonna keep saying Mephisto. Mephisto, shards of Mephisto.
Mephisto.
It's Mephisto. How many times can we say Mephisto in this podcast?
Each week, we talk through plot details, Easter eggs, and our own predictions for how the shows will end.
her husband, who she talks about, but we've yet to see, is likely going to be Mephisto.
He, she, me, Mephisto.
The mailman is Mephisto.
Everyone is Mephisto.
Mephistology, the study of Mephisto.
Okay, so let's talk about this Mephisto bit.
Schindler's Mephisto.
Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you download podcasts.
What we didn't get were any Mephisto sightings.
I'll be at the bar drinking a beer and waiting for Mephisto to show up.
All right, we're back. So, where we left it, Lelouch is interrogating Clovis, Prince Clovis, about his mother's murder. Flashback. Lelouch's mother was a commoner, but was made highborn through wedlock to the Emperor of Britannia, Charles Z. Britannia. So, Lelouch and Clovis share...
That's such a stupid name. I love it. Continue.
Lelouch and Clovis share the same father, but not the same mother. So a Henry VIII situation is going on here. Again, these are monarchs.
Yeah.
So Lelouch's mother was murdered, and Lelouch is looking for her killer. This event, which is shown on image 15, is basically Lelouch's origin story. This event also led to his younger sister, Nonali, being blinded and paralyzed. And she's the one with the horrified look in her face. It's rough. So what happened was after her death, after their mother's death, Lelouch and Nonali were sent to Japan under the guise of a diplomatic trade. But after Britannia attacked, they were officially pronounced dead and basically went into hiding. So they were exiled from Britannia into Japan, and everyone in their family thought they had died.
Got it.
Okay.
So Lelouch's whole thing, this is a revenge story. So to answer the question earlier, the why behind it, or what's he doing? It's revenge. So, and why is he taking on Britannia? He wants to just tear it all down. He wants to see the world burn.
Britannia killed his mother, paralyzed and blinded his sister, and exiled them, and he wants to tear it all down. Okay.
And then in image 16 is an image of Nonali, who is Lelouch's only reason for living is he wants to tear Britannia down and create in its place a better world for his sister, who is blinded and paralyzed. So that's the driving force behind Lelouch. Now, while mind controlled under Geass, Clovis tells him that their brother Schneisel or their sister Cornelia can tell him. Do you want to? We'll take a minute. Schneisel is the
That's the one.
Really, just kind of ran off the rails with the names.
They really enjoyed some of these very deeply European names.
It's my favorite. It's you do your goof though.
I was just gonna say it was like somebody in the writers' room was a big fan of Thundercats. I was like, I really want to get Schnarf in there, but I think that's already taken.
Schnarf.
I was gonna say that Schneisel is my favorite German heritage meal that my family has every year.
That's a good one.
Mm-hmm. Kyle, do you have one too?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay.
Got nothing for Schneisel.
So in image 16, this is the scene of Lelouch. So Clovis doesn't give him the answer that he wants. He doesn't give him any answer. So he says, well, we can be best buds, right? We can be brothers again. Please, brother. And he fucking shoots him in the head.
Yeah, Lelouch has the longest arm and holds the gun so close to him.
He does have a weirdly long...
Yeah. Like I said, everyone is very lanky in this world.
His arms are like a fishy, character.
What a pull. So yeah, he just straight up murders Clovis, and that's it. And then just walks out because, again, he has mind power, control powers, and can just do that. So after Clovis is murdered, Lelouch disappears from the palace. He slips back into his regular life as, you guessed it, a high school student at the elite Ashford Academy.
Because it wouldn't be an anime if there weren't a private high school involved.
Well, we're never going to get back to the dating sim portion of this if we don't return to high school.
Speaking of dating sims portions, Todd.
Shut up.
Oh, God.
Guess who he encounters? Guess who he encounters? Guess who he encounters?
Wait, let me look at see. It's either is it Colin?
So Lelouch encounters Colin, who has also been attending the same academy undercover.
Of course.
All right.
Are Lloyd and Cecile teachers at the academy as well? Does that also?
Okay, no, but you're not far off. So Colin runs into Lelouch and starts to suspect that he's the mysterious voice on the radio in the Battle of Shinjuku. Because his voice, because he's the Black Ranger from Power Rangers Ninja Adventure.
Right.
He's got a distinct voice instead of
he's got a distinct voice. But he tricks her by he does this thing where he tapes himself on a lot of phone calls. People get easily tricked in this universe, especially by tape recordings. Like no one is familiar with the idea of like recording your voice and playing it back. So Lelouch like throughout the series like does this 4 times where he just like he will create himself an alibi using a recorded version, like a recorded tape of his voice, and then just appear, you know?
Yeah.
That sounds like
and
a trick.
People just like, no.
That sounds like a trick that got pulled off in Gossip Girl like 4 times too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Suzaku, remember Suzaku, he's our good boy who's piloting the Lancelot. He is arrested for Clovis's murder.
Uh-oh.
Because he's Japanese in the Britannian army. Like there's no other reason.
Oh, okay.
So Lelouch sees this because it's on the news. Now remember, Lelouch does not know that Suzaku is in the military.
Was Lancelot. Yeah.
Correct. And Suzaku does not know that Lelouch is part of this a resistance. They don't know each other, I think. So they're just each other's friend. So Lelouch wants to save his friend, so he devises a plan. He puts on this helmet that covers his whole face. It's it's basically like a combat helmet for the pilots. And he dons the identity of Zero. Now that image is image 18. This is Lelouch as Zero. Todd, who does he look like?
I've got like a Meta Knight vibe here.
Ooh, Meta Knight was good. I was going with
a good pull. I was going
with black tuxedo.
Yeah,
Man,
it's like
tuxedo from Sailor Moon.
It's like
What's
Joker
mask?
meets Tuxedo Mask, but then with Meta Knight vibes.
I can't see Tuxedo Mask because the only way I can see Tuxedo Mask is the meme where it's like my job is done here, and they're like, but you didn't do anything, and he just leaves.
Yeah, he's got the same energy as Tuxedo Mask, and then he's like, hello everybody, and he's very theatrical.
Yeah, of course,
but he actually does shit, which is like, plays his voice on a tape recorder. So he as Zero, he goes to Suzaku's very public trial and confesses to the murder of Clovis in front of everyone, as Zero. And then he uses his Geass to convince the soldiers that are like ready to shoot him to stand down. And basically like quells the situation. Suzaku is exonerated. Zero publicly asks Suzaku to join him in his fight for justice, but Suzaku refuses. And this is like the main clash between these two figures is Zero wants to burn it all down and Suzaku wants to build it up, like improve it from within. So like one of them wants to defund the police, and the other one wants to, reform the police, pass things that will actually improve. So are either right or either wrong? I don't know.
Am I on Zero's team now? Is that what you said?
That's the thing. That's why I think this show is that's what I love about this show is that it is a little unclear because like, what Zero says and what Zero does are a little bit different. So, but he is very convincing. And this is what he does is he gets this entire group of people to follow him based on virtually nothing.
And his demon eye powers.
But he doesn't use that to get people to follow him. He uses
that to make them
them kill themselves to get out of his way.
Yeah.
So that's they're like I said, there's some cruft here, which we're like I didn't buy. I'm only giving you the hits. We're just this is just Code Geass greatest hits. But I think there's a lot of interesting concepts that I wish they would have delve into a little bit more instead of the way that it went, which we will get into. Anyway, okay, where were we? So Lelouch, thank you. Lelouch later encounters the green-haired girl again. Remember her? She introduces herself as C2. Sure. Also, sure, she didn't actually die because she can.
Because she's like a digital construct android or some shit, right?
Actually, no. She's immortal, but we don't know that yet.
We're getting to that.
That was my second guess.
Yeah.
Yep. So we see image 19 is C2. Anime ass anime girl.
Yep.
Yeah.
She also has boobs and butt. So in case you were curious.
If you were wondering.
But this one is green-haired flavored.
So this is the middle of the series where I'm just gonna go through some high beats here. Suzaku does a meet cute with this sweet girl off on the street who asks him to escort her around the ruins of the Shinjuku ghetto. Okay. Turns out after this series of events, she is Euphemia Il Britannia, which is another one of the royal family. She is on image 20.
Pink-haired boobs and butts.
She's pink flavor.
Yeah. Well, she's got the boob window. She like truly does have, in fact.
Yeah, and so the image that I picked is one where she's got a bird on her finger to show that she is good-hearted.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. She's the Disney princess of this imperial
she
empire.
Is the actual princess of this whole group. There are other people with the title of princess, but she is the most stereotypical princess.
Right.
And then now that Clovis is dead, Euphemia's sister, I mean, they're all related in some way, but Euphemia's blood sister, Cornelia Il Britannia, is made official viceroy of Area 11. So she's image 21. So she's purple flavored boobs and butt.
She is far less fun.
Yeah, so she's the serious one. But you can tell by her frowny face.
Yeah.
She's got a scowl and no boob window. Yeah.
Yeah, she's now taking Clovis's place and she's leading the military. She arrives in the Tokyo district and swears to bring down Zero. So she is going to be our main antagonist for the rest of the series.
Antagonist in the sense of we're on Zero's side of this?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. All right.
Now, because Ashford Academy seems to be the only school in Britannia, Suzaku also enrolls.
I was waiting for that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now we get into the dating sim part of the show.
And Suzaku is just pleased as punch to find Lelouch among the ranks of the studentship. The two are reunited once again, and we get more backstory to their relationship. So, Matt, this is to answer your question from earlier. So, what was going on with the two boys? So Suzaku was the son of Japan's last Prime Minister Genbu Kuwarugi. Suzaku became close with Lelouch and Nonali after they came to Japan because, again, they were sent to Japan on a diplomatic mission, right? So his family received them. Okay. But and the three of them became very close. But the three were separated after Japan was conquered and annexed. So they were childhood friends and then separated. Anyway, some dumb shit happens and a cat steals Lelouch's Zero mask and almost outs him as Zero, but it doesn't, and it's fine. And Suzaku climbs a bell tower or whatever. Long story short, Suzaku is welcomed into the student council of Britannian nobility. There's this other, we're not going to talk much about Ashford Academy because it doesn't matter, but there's all these scenes at the school that are just like boring and stupid. And there's this whole like group of student council people and they're like, what are we going to do about the dance? And someone goes, bah! And then someone goes to get a book and, and
like high school is.
Yeah, and then somebody trips and falls and lands in someone else's boobs. Like, we've been here before, y'all.
How long does the cat bit go
An
on?
episode. A whole episode, Kyle.
No.
And it doesn't matter.
That's awesome.
So who cares? Suzaku's a good boy. He's our hero. He's welcome in with open arms, as even though he's Japanese, everybody loves Suzaku. The end. Anyway, Now, meanwhile, with Lelouch, Lelouch has big Dexter energy, where like
Dexter from Dexter's Lab.
No, like from Dexter from Dexter.
Oh,
Oh,
I
okay.
also thought Dexter from
the
Dexter.
Showtime
Well,
show
they're-
Dexter.
That's fair. We're talking
two
about Cartoon
relevant.
Network.
Yeah, there are only 2 relevant Dexters, and I needed to know which side.
Well, and
we were on.
only one of them
what-
is a
how about-
sociopath. So
How about the lead singer of The Offspring?
Yeah, okay, so there are 3 relevant Dexters, and I needed to know which one.
I
we
was
were
about
on.
to ask Andrew who's that joke for, but that joke was for Matt.
Yeah,
So
Yeah,
it's
it
very
was.
much-
It was from that. Okay, so the reason I say that is Lelouch does this thing where like he'll be sitting at a desk with his head in his hands, be like, "How am I gonna kill all these people?" And then someone's like, "Lelouch, why don't you come to the student council meeting?" And he's like, "Oh golly gee, okay." You know, like it's great, it's good, it's really good. The Ashford Academy stuff is super fun. Anyway, so Lelouch has his sights now set on Cornelia. He's like, because if you remember, Clovis said, "Ask Schneisel or Cornelia." We haven't seen Schneisel yet.
okay.
So Lelouch is like, again, his go-to move, just like he likes to record his voice, he's really into stealing nightmare frames and then doing the like battleship thing where he gets the enemy map and then tells everybody where they are.
Right.
Is this while he's at high school?
This is after
The-
school.
the
This
hand
is
wavy
after
thing-
school project.
Well, the hand
Sure.
wavy thing is that he just doesn't go to school ever. So,
Fair.
Oh yeah.
so it's like what it is what it is. So he tries that move again with a different set of the resistance. I should be clear too. It's not one unified resistance. It's just a bunch of disgruntled 11s who are all
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
like they're not terrorists, but they act like they are. They're unorganized.
Yeah.
And some just like that kind of situation, some are good, some are bad. So he tries this with a different faction of resistance fighters, but they're ultimately defeated because they don't listen and they just run away. So he's like, it's all their fault. I need to build my own army. I'm going to take my ball and go home. I'm going to do my own army with blackjack and hookers over this way.
Mhm.
Yep. Mhm.
So thus the creation of the Black Knights. So the Black Knights come onto the scene after this rogue faction of the former Japanese military hijacks a boat and takes the passengers as hostage. Again, remember, some people are good, some people are bad, right?
Sure.
This boat, these hostages happen to include all of Lelouch's classmates.
Oh my Jesus.
Why would they not? Why would
Because
they
of
not
course.
be on a field trip this day?
Mhm.
Exactly. And also it includes Euphemia in disguise, because of course it does. So this is very much a Spider-Man far from home situation.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Lelouch coordinates a counterattack to free the Britannian hostages with Collins' group from Shinjuku. Collins' group is led by a man named Ogi Kaname, who is Image 22. We will never talk about Ogi again. He is not that important. Moving on.
Is he this series like commoner character?
He's an important character. He comes up a lot. I don't think his story is interesting or worth talking about.
Gotcha. Okay.
Fair.
So there you go.
He looks
Not
like
a big Ogi fan.
he looks like a mechanic. Does he fix things?
No, he's
Collar's
just
too
a
high to be a mechanic.
he's just a guy.
All right.
Have you guys seen Battlestar Galactica? Have any of you seen Battlestar
Of course
Galactica?
not.
No.
No.
Okay. All right. Well, fuck you. I mean, we do a podcast about fucking Marvel. Like, get
I
out
mean,
of here.
That one's at least on my list. I just haven't gotten to
Sure.
it yet.
Yeah, we're talking about Code Geass, and you're gonna make me feel bad about Battlestar Galactica.
I
Did you
am.
feel bad? I guess
am.
Todd did. Todd, get out of here. You're off the call.
It's a positive podcast, Todd.
So this group, now dubbed the Black Knights. Hey, remember that chess symbolism?
Hey.
Zero broadcasts this to the world and tells the world their mission, which is to seek justice and defend the weak from those with power.
The chess
He's gonna-
piece he's holding isn't a knight piece. Isn't the knight the one with the horse on top?
Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
What picture are you looking at that somebody's holding a chess piece?
It was image 3 or image 4.
Image 5?
Oh God, we've scrolled so far past
We're
that.
so far
Yeah.
from there.
I'm only mad that it's not the little horse piece.
Oh yeah,
No.
it's super a bishop in that picture.
All
That-
right.
That picture is 10 episodes ago.
Yeah, that was five, that was five
Like, to
ever
be
ago,
fair.
Todd.
Yeah. Okay, so the Black Knights are doing stuff. They're steadily gaining popularity with 11s and Britannians because they're not specifically aligned with the Japanese resistance. Rather, they are aligned with, quote, the little guy. They're vigilantes. This is vigilante justice, true and true. And part of that is due to this successful raid on a major drug ring, trading in this drug called Refrain, which is made up. In this world, it's a powerful hallucinogenic that makes the user remember fond memories. So you could assume with people that are, war refugees that are living in ghettos, this is tearing through that population because they're trying to remember being Japanese citizens.
It's like nostalgia in the Watchmen series.
Yep, exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this has a lot of parallels to the Watchmen, honestly. So a lot of people are getting on board with this. Suzaku, however, still believes Zero to be a terrorist and a force for chaos. So again, this is the argument between chaos and order, right? Zero is Loki and Suzaku is Owen Wilson. I want to talk a little bit about Colin. There is an episode where we get more about her backstory. I think this is an interesting story, so that's why I added this. So Colin's mother was Japanese, and was a maid for a Britannian. That Britannian actually offered to adopt Colin as a way to give her a better life. So it's not a blood relative. Again, this is very much like the slave trade in the early colonialism. Mm-hmm. Like the threads are not subtle here, guys. Like this is we're doing a colonialism like all the way. Now life for Colin at home was not great for her mother. Her mother was constantly tormented by Colin's stepmother, also Britannian, who hated both of them. Didn't agree with this situation. Colin's brother joined up with a faction of the resistance and died. And so she joined soon after his death. She is half Britannian, half Japanese. That's why she goes to that school, because that is a Britannian school. And that's why she uses the name Stotfeld. That's her official name, but in the resistance, she's Colin Kozuki. So
okay, just
something to note. She ends up being Zero's basically right hand. Colin does not know that Zero is Lelouch, but she ends up being she will. I think this is next, yeah. So she ends up getting another prototype nightmare frame and is the go-to for the Black Knights. So Zero leads Colin and the rest of his Black Knights on another attack on Cornelia. This time in an area of Tokyo called Narita. Like before, Suzaku steps in at the last minute and just whomps everybody. Suzaku is worlds ahead, streets ahead of of everybody else.
He's got the newest Britannian tech where Lelouch is always stealing. Just using what he can steal, right?
He's using the pawns, if you will. Mm-hmm.
Stop.
So Suzaku steps in at the last minute. He saves the Britannian royal. C2 at this point is is always traveling with Lelouch. There's this weird subplot where C2 wants to be loved and Lelouch and thinks Lelouch will be her lover. It sucks. I don't, whatever. She's always riding co-pilot with Lelouch. She uses a mind blast to just fucking melt Suzaku's mind for 10 minutes while the Black Knights escape. It's not really stated what that is, but he just sees all these horrifying images of skulls and stuff, and you just see his face pale white in horror, and then it's just it's done. So this is setting up the idea that C2 is going to do whatever it takes to keep Lelouch alive. So again, you must be alive. When she took that bullet, that's her thing.
And we don't know why yet. We just know that that's a thing.
Correct.
Got it.
Back at Ashford Academy, there's a student named Shirley who we see in Image 23. She's a high school student. She got a big old crush on Lelouch. Now, again, she was a main character in Ashford Academy, and I did not bring her up until now because there is an important story arc with her. So she spends a bunch of episodes being in love with Lelouch. Who cares? But it turns out in that battle in Narita, her father is killed in the crossfire. We don't see it; it just happens off screen. But in a preceding battle, there's a series of events that lead to Lelouch getting again whomped by Suzaku and crash lands right next to Shirley, who's like standing in rubble. I don't remember why. It doesn't matter. So Shirley grabs a gun and sees it at Zero and is about to shoot him, but then the Zero's helmet falls off and she realizes it's Lelouch, the man that she claims to love, who's also unconscious.
Conflict.
Yeah, so conflict. So that's image 24. Pretty cool little arc there. So what the resolution of this is Lelouch is saved by C2 as he is want to be done to him. I don't know. But afterwards suspects that particularly Shirley may have seen him without the helmet. So he kind of tails Shirley for a while, and both of them are accosted by this crazy guy named Mal, who has a visor like LeVar Burton in Star Trek. Mal also carries Geass power. So let's pause here, right?
Well, okay.
So Geass, remember, right? Devil fruit. This is a devil fruit situation. We're doing this again, where we spent half of the show thinking that this was one of a kind, and now everybody has these fucking powers.
Everybody's got a Geass.
Everybody's got a Geass.
Is this like the devil fruit where Lelouch has the like control Geass, and this guy's got some other one?
It is like the devil fruit in that they are all different.
Okay.
And then nobody can swim anymore. You can't swim if you have Geass.
Hey, you never see Lelouch swim, so that's probably not.
Don't swim until 30
untrue.
Minutes after you're done eating, unless you'll get the Geass.
Yeah. So we don't know at this point what his power is, but I'm just going to tell you he can read minds.
Okay.
So Mal manipulates Shirley, and Mal is image 25, I believe. Yeah, I don't know.
It looks like your typical anime like mad scientist.
Yep.
Again, not surprised he has mind reading powers.
Not
with
surprised
a dash of Sephiroth hair.
Yeah. Somebody ought to just grab him and break his arms. He's walking around with toothpicks on his shoulders.
That's a very
twigs.
So he manipulates Shirley into shooting Lelouch. But Shirley actually refuses. She's able to resist because she loves Lelouch so much.
The power of love.
Yep. It's a curious thing. C2 neutralizes Mal, and Lelouch uses his Geass to make Shirley forget their entire relationship. So he just he butterfly affects her, erases her from her memory, erases himself from her memory entirely, which is pretty neat. I thought this was really cool. There's a moment where, again, like Lelouch is kind of a sociopath and like clearly doesn't really, he only cares for revenge and he doesn't have connections to people. But there's a part where like,
you think he's got a heart? He
does. You think he has, he shows that he might actually have a heart, and C2 says something. She's like, what, did you actually love this girl? And he doesn't say anything. It's very much a like, it's a terrible day for Rain moment from Full Metal Alchemist, you know? Yeah. It's kind of cool. I did like that story. The rest of Shirley can go to hell. I don't give a shit about that character other than this. All right. Later, we get a little more backstory from C2 about Mao. Mao was the last recipient of her Geass power. So she is the one that gives these powers, and she can do it to multiple people. But each power manifests itself in different ways. But we also learned that Geass is so powerful for humans that it just eventually takes over, and there's a point where they're no longer able to control it. So the deal was with Mal was he can read minds, but after a while he couldn't turn it off, and he's always like wearing headphones or something so he can't hear minds. And he fell in love with C2 because she was the only one who understood him.
Wait, so is his visor just headphones in front of his eyes then?
They're like earmuffs turned forward.
He's got Cyclops.
The Geass always comes in the eyes. It's always like that's where it's centered.
Okay.
So that's basically him like he's cyclopsing himself. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So cool. also Mao's in love with C2 because of course he is.
Mm-hmm.
Lelouch sets up another smart boy caper to trap Mao and make the police shoot him a whole bunch, as he does. But Lelouch never confirmed the kill, so Mao comes back in a big bad way and kidnaps Nonoli. So Lelouch, specifically not as Zero, goes to Suzaku because Suzaku is the only one that knows who Lelouch actually is, like knows Lelouch's royalty, and also knows Nonoli. Everybody knows Nonoli, but they just know them as like not Lelouch and Nonoli Lamperouge. So Suzaku has like a real connection to Nonoli, and at this point in the show, Lelouch is like, I need to keep Suzaku alive so he can take care of Nonoli, because Lelouch thinks he's going to die. He's got a very like, there is an end game, and my end game is to die along with the Empire. So that's what's going on in his head. So he asks Suzaku for help, for his help in rescuing to rescue her from Mao. During the encounter, Mao reads Suzaku's mind and reveals the big bad secret in Suzaku's past, which is Suzaku killed his father.
Killed his own father?
Killed his own father.
Okay.
So if you remember, Suzaku's father was the prime minister of Japan.
Yeah.
Right.
So what happened was, again, like I think this is a really cool idea that they didn't carry through. Suzaku's father, Genbu Kurugi, refused to surrender to Britannia, even though they were being absolutely slaughtered. I mean, there are scenes in the show. It's like they had old Panzer tanks against these like mechs. Like it's just, you know, you're not going to win. And Genbu refused to listen to anybody. He would not listen to reason. So Suzaku, in a heated argument, basically, like, it was kind of an accident, but resolved that like if his father wasn't going to listen, this was the only way he could save lives. So,
a crime of passion. Yeah. Like he did it, and then it then had the what have I done moment afterwards.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so both of these guys have this like not suicidal, but like end game in mind, where they're gonna go down with the ship regardless of what happens. Like they've got their death planned out, right? So Lelouch doesn't know this. Like only Suzaku knows this. Lelouch does a Geass to Mao, meanwhile, through some smart boy tricks, and C2 then kills Mao for good, without Suzaku knowing all of this. Nonoli is rescued, and everyone goes home happy. Great. The end. Okay. Another fight between the Black Knights and Britannia's champion Lancelot winds up in the mech getting damaged, and then reveals to Lelouch finally the identity of its pilot. So now Lelouch knows that it's Suzaku. Suzaku still does not know that Zero is Lelouch.
Gotcha. Lancelot the mech gets damaged, revealing
Correct.
Suzaku inside. Okay.
And just a little bit about Suzaku. So Suzaku is just like the Black Knights. Suzaku has been making quite the name for himself, specifically among Britannian nobility. Again, Suzaku is Japanese. Everyone is racist. Nobody believes that he can contribute. So this is a big deal. So much so that Euphemia, the princess-ass princess, formally asks Suzaku to be her knight, which is like a bodyguard, which is unheard of because he's an 11. So there's this side plot. Lelouch, again, knowing that Suzaku is Lancelot, wants him on his side, wants him to be alive to protect Nonoli, yada, yada, yada. So he attempts to trap Suzaku while in the Lancelot to capture him, with the intent of convincing him to join his cause, right? Like, again, this is his friend. He doesn't want to kill him. His plan is working until another member of the royal family, Schneisel, shows up. Schneisel. Schneisel shows up on a massive floating battleship called the Avalon, just bombards the whole area, just blows up the whole island, as a way just to like kill Zero, to carpet bomb to kill Zero and anyone else. Damn the situation. Also, Euphemia is there too. So what happens is we see this battleship come and start to attack this group. We've got Lelouch, Colin, Suzaku, and Euphemia all in a group, and cut to black. And then next episode, we see all four of them wake up on this deserted island with no recollection of what happened.
Is it the beach episode?
It's the bottle episode.
Yep.
So we see they pair off into twos. Colin and Suzaku first find each other. Now, again, Lelouch knows that Colin is. Colin doesn't know who Lelouch is. Colin and Suzaku have been going to school together and have been doing the high school dating sim thing. So they have now realized each other's true identities. But they decide on a truce until they can find their comrades. Lelouch, as Zero, runs into Euphemia. So this is interestingly enough, none of the other royal family knows Lelouch is Zero, except for Euphemia. She like immediately was like, "Take the helmet off, Lelouch." And yeah, which is like kind of cool. Like, oh, damn,
that's a good moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's cool. And she said she's known for a while, and they have a nice little reunion, and it's really sweet. And you really like feel bad for Euphemia because Lelouch all this time is like, I'm gonna kill her, I'm gonna kill her, I'm gonna kill her, and she's just like, it's really nice to see you. I hope you've been able to find some peace with your sister. I really respected your mother. He's like, I'm gonna kill her, I'm gonna kill her. You know, it's just like, wow. Dude, come on, like chill. And I think like it's funny because like Euphemia is clearly like the one person that can kind of get through to him. And they have like a nice little, sit on the beach. They literally sit on the beach and talk about, this like dream for peace. And she says like, I hate that we've done this to these people. Like all I want is to find peace and blah, blah, blah. Which is like, okay, fine. This reunion is cut short. Or there's a line where, she says like, when they come back are you going to have to be Zero? And he says, yeah. And he does. And he, as Zero, grabs Colin and they steal another prototype nightmare, this one codenamed Gawain, which is image 26.
Yeah, Gawain looks rad.
Yeah, super rad.
Gawain is super
the black
rad.
one to Lancelot's the white one.
Yeah.
Thus driving the chess imagery even further.
Also, this one can fly.
Cool.
Sure.
Nice.
All right.
Wait, they just found it on the island?
Yeah.
All right.
There's actually a reason why, but it sucks.
No, it's fine.
Now I'm curious.
I gotta know. I gotta know how it sucks.
The answer involves the word thought elevator, and that's all I'm going to say.
I'm done with that. I don't need that.
Yep, you're right. That sucks. Okay.
Wow, yeah.
No.
Just wait till we talk about R2, guys.
I was ready for it to be like, it slipped out of the back of a plane while someone was flying over the island. Something dumb like that, but...
Not fam.
Thought elevator.
All right.
It's always a thought elevator.
Yeah.
So we get a school fair filled with fun hijinks and hilarious encounters because this is an anime and there has to be a school fair. Princess Euphemia announces a plan to enact a specially administered zone of Japan near the area around Mount Fuji. I should explain, up to this point, we've been seeing aerial shots of Mount Fuji where they're building some sort of massive infrastructure around Mount Fuji to show that they don't respect the island. Duh. So this specially administered zone is meant to be a place where 11s can live freely as Japanese out from under the oppressive thumb of the Britannians. So it's just like, we're going to give them part of their country back.
It's a reservation.
It's a reservation. Yes, that was the word I was looking for.
Yeah, it's a reservation.
This is colonialist as fuck, dude.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yep.
They got it. They did it.
But she's got good intentions. Just she's doing this because she's inspired by her love for our good boy Suzaku, because now they've become kind of an item, and also by a desire to be with Lelouch and Nonali again, because again, like, they were very close growing up. After this announcement, everyone's like, holy shit, what's Zero and the Black Knights going to do? Because to this point, the Black Knights have been preaching peace and, we're going to fight for the little guy and, whatever, and we're going to give you guys your freedom back. So it would be stupid of them not to. But the funny thing about it is, like, Lelouch does not want to make peace. He doesn't want a treaty. He wants to obliterate. He wants to burn the regime down.
Well, and so it's could argue, sees it as the reservation.
It's a reservation.
Yeah, right.
Like,
yeah.
It is not, here's Japan back. It's here's a place that we don't want, so you guys can have it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, call it right, justifiably so. Lelouch sees this as a now. Lelouch doesn't. It's not. This show is not that smart. Like this show has some interesting themes, but this show is not that smart. It's not making that argument. What it's saying instead is, oh, she's doing a power grab, right? Like she's trying to 4D chess me imagery, because she knows that I have to say yes, so I'm going to say yes, but not actually. Like it's that kind of thing.
Gotcha.
But what you're saying, Kyle, objectively cooler and more interesting.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
So they don't go the reservation argument. He goes the like it's a trap argument.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Correct. So now what happens though? This is probably the coolest and like most wild part. This is the red wedding of this series. So Lelouch, there's this big unveiling ceremony. They're in this stadium. There's a massive amount of Japanese of 11s in there, and everyone's just like waiting on bated breath. Like, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? Is Zero gonna come? Whatever. Well, Lelouch goes to the ceremony as Zero to talk with Euphemia, and he does this whole Zero thing. I'm here. And he meets up with Euphemia in secret, just the two of them. He takes off the mask and they're talking and she's thinking like, oh, you've come to like, you know, to figure this out with me. That's great. Where like, he's like, I'm going to kill her. And again, like we have never seen Lelouch not do a thing that he says he's going to do. But what's interesting is they're talking and she's actually able to convince him to partner with her. Because like, he's like, you're just doing this for a power grab. She's like, I have officially rescinded my title. I am no longer part of the noble family. Like I am only doing this to be with you and Suzaku. And he's like, well, you outfoxed me. And he's actually like, he's like, so this is kind of cool, right? Where he's like, you know what, Euphemia, like I'm legitimately like excited about this. Let's do it. Let's be together again. But then,
but wait,
but wait, there's more. His Geass just fires. Because remember, I told you comes a point where the Geass is no longer to be able to control, and his Geass just fires, and he's like, no, and it hits Euphemia, and he mistakenly commands her to kill all of the Japanese.
Oh no.
My God!
Yep.
I was gonna make a joke, as you know, sometimes when you get older, that just goes off, and Lelouch shouldn't be embarrassed about that. But I feel like that joke doesn't work right now.
No, sorry, I kind of missed its landing.
He should be embarrassed by that.
So image 27 is Euphemia trying to resist having to kill all of the Japanese.
Wow.
Unfortunately, she does not succeed in breaking this grasp, and in image 28. She just straight up murders everybody in the stadium.
Yeah.
Oh.
So she takes a machine gun and she says, I must kill all the Japanese. And then she goes on the speaker. She goes, hello, everybody. I'm going to kill you now. And then she just starts unloading a machine gun in the stands.
Now, Andrew, is this like a Mr. Meeseeks where she cannot stop until she kills all the Japanese? Or is it just like she killed all of them in the area and then she's like, good?
No, because after she does that, she grabs a nightmare frame and guns down everybody who's escaped from the stadium.
Oh my God.
And it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard to watch.
I can imagine.
So Lelouch, meanwhile, is like, no, he's like, what have I done?
Yeah.
So he's like, I have to find her. And he's like, he can't turn it off. So unless he lets her kill all the Japanese, he has to mercy kill her. Well, he does that. And he mercy kills her just in time for Suzaku to watch it happen.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
And then there's our big Three's Company misunderstanding.
Yep.
And yep. Okay.
So we got the Revengee is now the Revenger.
Or
the Revenger is now the Revengee.
Yeah.
So this whole thing just absolutely ignites the factions of the resistance, because of course it does. And generally, like the populace of the 11s who didn't get massacred in the stadium, who like every single 11 believes this was a trap from the beginning, right? Like this was just a ruse to. They were doing a reservation. Like this was a ruse to murder us.
Yeah.
Which is like, yikes, man. And of course, like, so Zero went himself. The Black Knights know nothing of what happened. They don't even know about the Geass. So they thought that this was Britannia's doing, like, again, like everybody else. And they're like, Zero, you were right, man. You called it. Like, let's, and here's the thing about Lelouch, right? Like, as Zero, he's kind of a sociopath. He's like, well, this is what we're doing. And he takes advantage of this situation to say, to tell every 11 to unite under him. And we're going to liberate Japan from Britannia to create a new country called the United States of Japan.
Okay.
And this is the beginning of the event called the Black Rebellion. While this is happening, Suzaku is approached by a strange child man individual called V2. Now, who else in this show has a 2 in their name?
The immortal one that grants all the powers.
With the Geass and such.
With the Geass and the such. So V2 approaches Suzaku and tells him about Zero's Geass power and how he was able to amass this army that he did. V2 is shown in image 29.
Okay.
All right.
So we'll get to that in a little bit. So the Black Rebellion. Zero leads the Black Knights into an all-out war against Britannia as Area 11 erupts into chaos. When it seems as though the 11s are actually winning, Lelouch takes the opportunity to go off of comms and corner Cornelia. Because again, remember, he's trying to find out about his mother.
Right.
Yeah.
So just like he did with Clovis, he goes up to Cornelia, reveals his identity, and he uses his Geass on her to finally get an answer about his mother's killer. Unfortunately, she doesn't know either, and Lelouch finds himself yet again at a dead end.
Swinging a miss on it.
Yeah.
Yep. Meanwhile, V2 kidnaps Nunnally, and C2 senses their location after the encounter with Cornelius. This is all happening kind of simultaneously. So Lelouch as Zero just abandons the battlefield and leaves back to Kamine Island, which is where that group landed after the battleship bombardment. Remember I said thought elevator? Remember all that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So they go back there. So Lelouch just pieces. And leaves the Black Knights to their own devices, which again, remember, like, his position is to be the guy that says to go where they go. So they don't know how to fight without Lelouch telling them what to do. They get whomped. Because of course they do, because they're going up. I mean, they're the rebels going against the Empire, and they don't have their ace in their sleeve anymore. Also, Suzaku chases after Zero because he's doing a revenge, and then Colin chases after Suzaku so she can protect Zero. Because we need to put all our main characters in one place,
right? Right.
So
the plot demands it.
And then the remaining resistance are summarily wiped out. Lelouch as Zero arrives at Kamine Island, followed by Suzaku and Colin. Suzaku catches up to Zero and shoots him in the head, which cracks the helmet, and in a slow, dramatic reveal, Suzaku watches in horror as he sees his friend as his sworn enemy in image 30. This is their final standoff. So we've got good and evil, chaos and order, guns pointed at each other. And we see in image 31, this is, I think, not the picture that I was looking for, but a good picture to show Lelouch's absolute transformation into Count Dracula.
The two different colored eyes.
He does. And he does that thing that chaotic villains do where he just goes and does a chaos laugh, a villain laugh. He does a little bit of a monologue. But then in a moment of lucidity, he's pleading with Suzaku to just let him rescue his sister. Like, I don't care what you do to me, just let me rescue Nunnally first. And Suzaku does it and just keeps his gun aimed. And then the episode and an entirety of R1 ends with a cut to black and the sound of gunfire.
Huh.
Is it multiple shots, or is it a single gunshot? What's the...
It's a single shot.
Okay.
Do we find out do we get a resolution?
We do. And that resolution, Todd, is Code Geass, Lelouch of the Rebellion, R2.
This is some Final Fantasy naming.
So real quick, let me be clear. I didn't watch all of R2. I'm still going through it. So I watched a video and got this. So I'm going to give the super, super high highlights, really just answering the questions that were already posed in R1. I don't like this story as much as I did R1 because it does that thing where for the same reason I don't like a lot of the evil empire tropes is it always ends with like a greater eviler empire or a greater eviler presence controlling everything behind the scenes. Right. I don't think that's narratively interesting. I just like evil empires. It
takes away the evilness of the actual empire because it's like, oh no, there's the real evil empire.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It also like tries to. I like Lelouch ending as a villain, and he's kind of redeemed in R2, which is fine. I get it, but it's not as satisfying to me. But let's talk about it.
They Rise of Skywalkered it.
Yep. I didn't see Rise of Skywalker, but I assume that's what it. Yeah, that's what they do with Kylo Ren. I assume so.
You just gave the whole movie in 2 sentences. So
yep. There's a bigger eviler evil.
Yeah,
and they redeem
the villain.
I don't think that's interesting. All right, so we're gonna recontextualize a lot of the things that we just talked about in R1, namely C2's backstory. So a little bit about there's a whole thing with this like underground civilization that worships Geass. I don't care. Back in the medieval times, C2 was given the power of immortality by a nun who I guess is the source of Geass powers. This immortality is not a Geass power; it's a code.
Oh, they put it in. I was gonna say they put it at the start screen. Got it.
Yeah. And this code grants the wielder the ability to form Geass contracts with others. So C2's contract is that she will give people powers in return for love. That's the thing. Again, it sucks, but that's
sad.
Yeah. But she's never been able to get that because throughout the centuries she's always branded as like a heretic, a witch, a monster, whatever, because she's immortal. Sure. C2 eventually found her way into Britannia's military and met Lelouch's mother, Lady Marianne, who was at the time one of Britannia's elite knights, and the two of them became friends. Marianne was a Nightmare Frame pilot, and as she does, C2 gave Marianne Geass powers, so that'll come into play in a bit. The other being to get a code, i.e. immortality, was V2. Big surprise.
Wild.
What a twist.
Who just so happens, well, here's the twist, right? Just so happened to be the older brother of Charles Z. Britannia, the now ruler of the Britannian Empire, who is on Image 32, who is also Lelouch's father.
What's the timeline here? Is this...
As their children. So, V2 and Charles, V2, born a human, was given immortality, stopped aging.
Okay.
But this wasn't the same time C2 got her powers.
Correct.
This was more recent. Okay.
And I do not know why or how V2 got immortality. Please do not ask.
That's in R3.
Listeners, you can add us to let us know.
So Charles is the main antagonist of R2. That is Lelouch's father. He is the brains behind the operation.
Is he the bigger, badder evil? Or is he just...
No, he is the Kylo Ren in this example.
Okay.
Well, actually, no, he is the bigger, badder evil, but he is submitting to a biggerist, badderist evil list.
Good God.
So
just
V2,
big bad evils all the way down.
All the way down, baby. V2 granted Charles Britannia with Geass powers to change people's memories. So Charles went on to use those powers to ascend to the throne of Britannia. And together, the boys from a very young age decided they would slay God.
All right.
Oh, okay.
We're doing a kill God. We're doing this because killing again, God. Like every evil empire wants to kill God. I don't know why this is a thing, but like you only make evil empires to kill God. So in order to kill God, Charles would need to connect all 8 thought elevators to access the Sword of Akasha.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
This whole flavor text was so promising until that bullet point.
I know. I was there too. The Sword of Akasha is a massive otherworldly temple on another plane of existence that he uses to initiate say it with me, the Ragnarok.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, right.
To melt reality as we know it.
Cool. Yep.
Mm-hmm. So, to recontextualize, Charles' conquest of Japan, the Pacific Islands, and later all of Europa are all in favor of reaching the thought elevators that are scattered throughout the world. Back to Marianne. Remember how this was like this really cool story about like his mom dying and there was like political intrigue? Nope. Oh man. So the real story was Charles had many lovers and consorts during his rule, as he is a ruler and he is wont to do, but Marianne was probably his closest confidant and most legitimate love interest. Marianne, as it turns out, was also super into conquering the world.
Was really into the imperialism.
Yeah, she's big old fan of imperialism, and the two did so happily ever after until and then they had Lelouch and Nonnally. V2, the small child man, was jealous that Marianne was getting in the way of their plan to slay God. So he instead slayed Marianne in cold blood.
Can't make an omelet without breaking some eggs.
Except he actually didn't.
Oh, never mind.
I'm saying this with my hands rubbing my temples. Because it turns out Marianne's Geass power is that she can transfer her consciousness into other people.
Ugh.
So she transferred her consciousness into a maid or whatever and has been alive the whole time.
So Andrew, where did you stop watching R2?
Oh, you watched a video for this.
I watched a video for this and I was furious. Because I legitimately liked R1. I thought there was a lot of cool threads and ending that show on a cliffhanger of like Suzaku v Lelouch was like in my mind perfect.
Yeah.
And then they did this. So remember that island where they were
Andrew,
all
there was more money to be made.
Yep. So remember how Colin and Suzaku and Lelouch and the other one, Euphemia, ended up on that island after getting bombarded by a battleship. Marianne, i.e. in her spooky ghost spirit mom form, transferred all of their consciousnesses into this island because
it's Cortana.
Marianne is apparently Cortana, but also Lelouch's mother, and because there's a thought elevator there, she can do that or whatever.
This sucks.
Yeah, it sucks. Sucks.
I'm gonna be honest. When you said thought elevator to begin with, I thought you were just saying that like a plot device that didn't matter, and you were just calling something a thought elevator.
I wish I was.
There are 8 of them, and they play a role. Makes me really mad.
They're the 8 pieces of the Fire Emblem.
They're the Dragon Balls. Yeah.
So remember that awesome fade to black ending where both Suzaku and Lelouch shoot each other, and that's the ending, and that's cool. That's not the ending, and what actually happened was Suzaku. What was it? Lelouch shoots off Suzaku's helmet, and Suzaku shoots Lelouch like in the shoulder or something, and knocks him out. And
they're both fine and still alive.
They're both fine. But Suzaku, actually, this is kind of cool. So Suzaku takes Lelouch and like literally drags his face on the ground to the inside of the door, who's waiting for him, none other than Charles, and tells Charles like, as tribute, I give you Zero, the defactor. Knowing that Lelouch is his son, but not realizing that Charles also has Geass powers and is known the whole time or whatever.
Sure.
So R2 actually opens with an episode where Lelouch is like just a normal high school boy and has a kid brother and doesn't remember anything and doesn't have Geass powers. And what that is Charles implanted fake memories into Lelouch. And made him basically forget all of R1 and just trying to find C2 because something about Charles wants immortality because of course he does. And he wants to kill God or whatever. So the most of R2 is the first half of R2 is Lelouch as Zero. He gets his memories back from C2 and as Zero gets the band back together to do another rebellion. and they go after Schneisel. They go after Charles. He finally gets to Charles to seek his revenge, except it's revealed that his mother comes back from her spectral form and is like, Lelouch, join us. We're gonna go kill God over here. And he's like, I don't want to do that. I'm going to actually partner up with my buddy Suzaku. They Predator handshake. And now Lelouch and Suzaku, or Lelouch does something. There's this other thing called the selective conscious.
Nope.
The collective.
There's not, though. That's the thing. There's not.
It looks like a big DNA strand that lives in heaven. Lelouch uses his Geass powers on the collective unconscious and like destroys the fabric of reality or something, which kills Charles and his mother. And then the end of R2 is Lelouch and Suzaku cooking up a plan that Lelouch will assume the Britannian throne and pretend to be an even bigger dictator than his father was. Suzaku then dresses up as Zero to assassinate him to officially declare the end of the Britannian Empire. I don't know why they couldn't have done that without
why he couldn't just be like the king and then dissolve it and
not be a piece of shit. I don't know. But I'll keep watching it. Maybe I'll learn something I didn't know. And the show ends. They needed to redeem Lelouch, so he dies at the end, knowing that he's atoned for all of his sins. And that's R2. And I wish I didn't know that.
Yeah. Wow. Really, like, post-writer strike on Lost took a turn for this show.
Yeah. Lost definitely came to mind.
Yeah, this sucks.
Yeah. Yeah.
You haven't asked us yet, but yeah, like, I really liked the first part.
Yeah.
Me too.
I think the benefit of these flavor texts are obviously like things that we're not exposed to that like we get to do some research on. And usually at the end, I'm like, wow, that was really, really fun. And like, maybe I'll go look up some YouTube videos because I'm not going to watch the whole thing. And like, I felt that way about the first half. And then the second half was just kind of a little bit of a wet fart. And they tried to give like a resolution to things that did not need resolution.
Real season 8 Game of Thrones vibes.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, insert any show that trips on its own dick in the finish line. It gets into like weird philosophy stuff, which it just has no business getting into. Like we don't need another mention of the Philosopher's Stone. We don't need another mention of like the persona, the ego, like we've done this before. Just give me an evil empire story. Like that's all I want, guys. Come on.
Yeah, I did not expect human instrumentality to come back up at the end of this anime. Well, and I gotta agree with Todd. Like, I was really starting to think, like, man, maybe I come out of this flavor text with a second anime that I enjoy. Wouldn't that be exciting? But I was having a hard time around the middle where you're like, oh, and now we're doing the anime high school thing because I was a lot less interested in that. And then it just, boy, oh boy, did it go off the rails. I don't like it.
Real off the rails.
Yeah, it did. Well, thanks for listening to Debate This.
Oh, hey, wait, Andrew, before we go, if people do want to watch this, where can they?
Yeah. We'll do that for real. So if you want to watch Code Geass, and again, like, I think my overall review is there's definitely some interesting parts. I was not what you would call, say, hooked the whole time. Definitely a little bit of fat in the middle. I don't care about Ashford Academy ever. I don't care about Shirley or Millie or Rose or Clinton. I don't give a shit. I think I made up half those names. That's the thing. Like, I had to look up a lot of these names. There's so many characters, I could not remember them all. But the hits are hits, right? There is a lot of good stuff here. So I would say like overall 6.5 or 7 out of 10. If you want to watch it, both R1 and R2 are on Netflix.
Okay.
As well as Funimation. So pretty easy to find. If you like big robots, if you like an evil empire story, you'll probably still get a lot out of season 1.
How much of season 1 is the Academy?
It's interlaced. It's interlaced. I just skipped over a lot of it.
But just percentage wise, like, am
35%.
Okay, that's not bad.
Yeah. Final thoughts?
I'm not gonna watch it.
I'm with I'm probably not gonna watch it. I was really on board until 8 thought elevators.
Thought elevators is very bad. A lot of the first half was very good.
A lot of the I want to reiterate, like, a lot of the first half sounds very interesting, and I love the special area massacre is very cool.
Very cool.
The ambiguous ending of R1 is very, very cool. Even the like ham-fisted chess symbolism is very cool. Like, I think I like a lot of what was in R1. I also know, like, knowing me, the first time the whole episode of the cat with messing around with Zero's helmet, I would have killed any momentum that had built up for me, though. So
look, like I've said on this show, I do a lot of playing Final Fantasy MMOs while I'm watching these shows, especially during the boring parts. So that helps. That helps get through it.
Sure. You also have a higher tolerance for anime / JRPG bullshit than the other three of us.
I have an above average tolerance. I have a below average tolerance for American comic bullshit, so it all works out.
Yeah.
There you go.
Cool. Well, thanks so much, everybody, for listening in to debate this. And thank you so much to Sean, our lovely patron, at our Patreon. You can check out our Patreon at patreon.com/debatethiscast. Friendly reminder, if you too want to commission your own episode, you can make us talk about anything, literally anything. And not except for Code Geass R2. But hell, if you want to hear about the other one with the semicolon in it, yeah, fuck it. I don't know. I've gone this far.
It was
why the hell not?
Resurrection.
Semicolon.
It's not even a colon, it's a semicolon, which makes me even more confused.
Two independent thoughts. Check out our Patreon. You can do so for $50 one-time commitment. If $50 is too big, you can consider instead just kicking us $5 a month to get access to our premium feed, which has all past episodes of The Office Drones. And we are getting into the next major arc, which is the finance arc. Get ready. And speaking of anime tropes, we're doing a tournament story. So you want to definitely get in on that. Or, don't. I'm not your dad. I don't give a shit. Nothing matters. Eat Arby's. Until next time, I'm Andrew Henderson.
I'm Kyle 0 to Slaying God Harper.
I'm Todd. Ella le gusta la gasolina Thomas.
That was
that was a good one. Yeah,
that was really good.
And I'm Matt Obtuse Rubber Groose Lelouch Lamperouche Cole.
We're saying thanks for debating with us. When you think we're wrong, you can come fight us behind the swing sets, nerds.